Shadowguard is a premium module released within the expansion pack Neverwinter Nights Kingmaker, which included two other modules, Kingmaker and The Witch's Wake. The campaign is set in Abaron, a setting built specifically for this module. The Sarkhan Empire is the most powerful race in the land, commanded by a celestial emperor named Rakah, who seeks to unite the entire planet. However, the northern lands do not wish to join the Empire. The rebellion is supposed to be led by the enigmatic Crimson Prophet. The plot is set in Garak, an imperial metropolis near the northern province's boundary. In this campaign, we begin our journey starting at level 3. After a brief talk with the Eternal Spirit and recounting of our past, we find ourselves at the beginning of the adventure.
For a large portion of my young life, I had come to age in the southern cities of the Shadowguard Empire, trained among the advanced academies of the Empire's heartlands, leaving my childhood among those peaceful lands. My father's name was Okaris, and he was a general of the Shadowguard army who enjoyed the favor of Emperor Raka. His fame ensured my mother and I had few wishes which went unfulfilled, and we lived a life of luxury and ease. I saw very little of my father himself, however. Always campaigning with his men in the north, my father was not one for the simple pleasures of home, and years would pass between his visits to see my mother and me. I must confess I had little desire to know my father much further than the visiting stranger he had become, and it always seemed to me that he felt much the same way. But destiny often takes strange turns we do not expect, and in the year 1370 my mother took ill to the Red Plague spreading throughout the south. Within 3 months she was dead, leaving me alone upon our rich plantation. My father had recently taken over the position of ruling magistrate over the city of Garak, an imperial colony along the outermost fringes of the wild frontier known as the Northern Reaches. His duties keeping him busy as they did, my father barely arrived in time to share a few last words with my mother before she departed this world forever. After my mother's funeral, my father and I were left with the awkward decision of what fate would befall me. In many ways, I would have preferred to stay upon our plantation home in the south and make my own destiny. But my father had other ideas. At his bidding, I was brought to live among the imperial citizens of Garak to finish my training at the Imperial Academy under my father's care. Life upon this wild land proved very different from that of the civilized cities of the south, and I felt quite alone among my new home in Garak. Though we now lived within the walls of the same city, I saw my father little more than I had before, for he was always on official business with his duties as the city's magistrate. Still, my time was not completely wasted, and I worked night and day to finish my training at the Imperial Academy, in the hope that I might yet be free to make my way in the world as my own woman. Unbeknownst to me at the time, life was soon to take a turn that would change my fate forever. Looking back on it now, I can see that it all began on that fateful day, when I was summoned to the Imperial Academy to perform my graduation ceremony.
Shadowguard is named after the organization that appears prominently in the game. We are the daughter of Okaris, a city lord, and are nearing the end of our academic studies. The game begins with a graduation ceremony in which we are asked to select one of 3 magical emblems, each of which grants us specific perks. Being a bard, I decide to choose the crest of the Redeemer for some extra healing buffs. Following our graduation, the instructor informs us that a man named Marcius is seeking for us. We begin our short walk over to the market district to meet with our new contact. He warns us that slavers are active in the city and asks us to try to get information from one of their agents, Shrak, a merchant within the market square. We discover that the slavers have a room at the Ravenclaw Tavern, and that the passphrase for the admission is, "The hawk's blood flows freely." Once we've transmitted this information to Marcius, we are rewarded for our efforts, and Marcius joins us in our mission to stop the slavers from operating in the city. When we talk to one of the other market district merchants, Nelgir, we observe a scene in which he and an elven woman named Kara Dainish are disagreeing over a bloodstone, which ends with a woman stealing the stone and summoning a spirit to haunt Nelgir's stand. Nailgear then asks for our assistance in removing the spirit by offering a small sum of payment. We accept his offer and head into the Ravenclaw Tavern, where we must persuade the innkeeper to hand us the key to Kara's room. Thanks to our good skill checks as a bard, we are able to successfully confront the thief in her room. Upon talking with Kara, we discover that the phantom haunting the stand is Nailgear's father, whom Nailgear murdered so that he could steal his stones and set up his own gemstand. We learn that in order to banish the spirit, we must bring Nailgear to justice, and that we must seek the spirit's body, which is located in a place of darkness and a terrible stench. Given 2 quests to handle at once, we decide to tackle the slaver's problem first. When we arrive at the tavern slaver's chamber in the Ravenclaw Tavern, we discover that everything was a setup and the slavers kidnap us. After being knocked out, we find ourselves in the slaver's den. From here, we have to fight our way out and confront the slaver, Lord Jorok.
You'll find your death here!
Let the earth take you!
After our mini-adventure, Marcius decides to temporarily part ways with us. On our journey back to the surface, we enter a sewer chamber, where in a pile of rubble, we find the dead body of Nailgear's father. This is the evidence of murder that we needed, and we can finally bring Nailgear to justice. We report his crimes to an Imperial officer, who helps us to arrest Nailgear, and the phantom finally dissipates, finding rest. After our adventures, we seek more people to converse with around town to continue the story. Upon entering the Ravenclaw Tavern again, we decide to have a chat with a group of friends who are playing a friendly game of cards. A halfling named Taryn wins the hand, and the other 2 are not pleased. Gon, the Monitor, is a bit short-tempered, and after destroying the table, tells us how he lost a soul brooch to a shady man named Millock. Taryn will then offer us some compensation to collect the brooch for Gon. We find Millock located in the Market District, just south of the Imperial District's gate. Given our wealth, we are able to bribe the brooch back from him and return the trinket to its original owner, under the guise that we won it back in a bet to save face. After finishing the soul brooch quest, some companions, led by a man named Malthar, approach Tarin and invite him to play cards. Tarin is then kidnapped by them, and Leyen needs our assistance in rescuing him. We catch up with Malthar at the northwestern area of the Market District, but as soon as he spots us, he flees into the boathouse. We must track him down. After fighting our way through a bunch of thugs, we are finally able to confront Malthar and kill him. On his corpse, we loot his key and are able to set the halfling free, furthering the story progression within this DLC. For a long time, we have been wanting to meet with our father, and it's been difficult knowing that he was too busy to be able to make our graduation at the academy. As we tie up our adventures in the Market District, we are attacked by a group of assassins. Who they are and where they come from, we do not know. Our father finally hears of this and sends word for us to come see him in his chamber. When we are finally allowed to enter his chamber inside the Imperial Grand Hall, Stepping inside starts a cutscene in which our father, Harkon, and Overlord Vorkas debate a freshly discovered gem and how it could be a terrible influence. After the meeting ends, we are finally able to speak with our father, who informs us about a meeting he's organizing at the Imperial Estate. He doesn't sound confident about the encounter, and he tells us to remain away from the estate in case something goes wrong. We exit the Grand Hall and speak with Marcius at the hall's front gates. He tells us that Mikael Ravenclaw was behind the assassination attempt, and he urges us to go and investigate. When we confront Mikael, he confesses that they were simply mercenaries in the attempt on our life, and that the true culprit behind our murder attempt was none other than Chancellor Varun, the second in command to our father. If this is indeed true, this is a serious betrayal. Upon confronting the Chancellor, he denies his involvement in our assassination attempt. We try to bring up evidence against him, but we find a burnt letter in his desk when we search and are unable to come up with a clear accusation against him. I learn later that there was a way to bring evidence against him based on other choices I could have made beforehand, but it is too late for this playthrough. We must head to our estate and find our father. When we reach our house's door, we trigger a cutscene in which our house is blown up and we are knocked unconscious. When we finally come to our senses, we see the Crimson Prophet exiting the remnants of our home. Before he leaves, he directs his henchmen to kill us. But, just in time, Marcius appears, and the two of us face off against the Crimson followers. Once they are killed, we speak with Marcius, and he suggests that we depart the city in his ship, the Voyager. Our father has died in the explosion, and all is lost. We shortly realize that the city has been attacked, and getting to the docks is going to be more difficult than before. We discover that the gate to the market district has been magically sealed, and so we must turn off the control stone in the Imperial Grand Hall to unlock it. This requires us to fight off many Crimson followers before we can finally break down the doors to the Imperial Hall and enter the back room where the control stone is located. When we enter, we see that Harkon is trapped in a magical barrier. Upon reading the instructions for the control stone, taken from the corpse of High Sorcerer Zarim, we are able to solve the puzzle and unlock the barrier to the market district, as well as free the trapped man. After disabling the control stone, the Crimson Prophet returns. He taunts us briefly before leaving, but not before summoning 6 Crimson followers to attack us. The conflict is fairly manageable, with both Marcius and freed Harkon on our side. We are finally able to enter the ravaged market district, where the rest of the Shadowguard meets us, and we can proceed to the docks to confront our attacker. As we head for the docks, an explosion destroys the gate, injuring the guard fatally. However, before he dies, he informs us there are 3 ways to reach the docks: by breaking the wreckage on the bridge to clear a path, by taking a boat, or by seeking the secret passage in Mikael Ravenclaw's room. With Leyin at our side, we are able to successfully break through the rubble. When we arrive, the Crimson Prophet calls demons to confront us before fleeing in a boat. Once the demons are dead, we speak with Marcus and make our way to the Voyager, where the module ends and we are left with a cliffhanger, never to know the full conclusion of this campaign. Despite its cliffhanger ending, I enjoyed this content a lot more than the other unfinished module, Witch's Wake. While Witch's Wake's story could barely get off the ground before abruptly ending, Shadowguard allows the player to feel more immersed in the story and contribute to a lot of quests that have satisfying conclusions. Although the overarching story is there, the DLC provides a lot more quests that are enjoyable, and there are a lot more memorable characters to interact with. I love the interpersonal conflict between the father and the player character, where you, as a player, feel a bit hurt that your father is too preoccupied to attend your graduation. The dialogue options really allow your character to roleplay how you want them to feel, and most of the quests have alternate paths and choices to make, which keeps the gameplay feeling fresh. There is a library in the Imperial Hall full of books describing the lore of the new campaign setting, and despite the shortness of the module, the writers really attempt to fit in as much world building as possible. While Witch's Wake ended without much story, Shadowguard ends with a satisfying enough conclusion, but leaves the player with the knowledge that a Part 2 will fill in the unanswered cliffhangers. Unfortunately, like its other counterpart, there is no second part to this campaign, and we are left to wonder what the sequel would have hypothetically looked like. Overall, I am glad I experienced this campaign after The Witch's Wake, because I would have been much harsher with my prior review had I played this first. There was a lot more tension and conflict intermixed with some fun quests, and it is definitely worth checking out for its 3 to 5 hours of gameplay that it offers. I do wish we could have explored more than just the city of Garak, and been exposed to the countryside contained within the Sharakan Empire. But Shadowguard still provides an engaging experience that can be enjoyed and completed on a weekend afternoon. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more RPG and Neverwinter Nights content. Adios!